Good evening, good night, and good morning to everyone. This is update for May 18, 2022, day 84 of the war, end of the date update. There's only one small piece of sort of strategic news, is that the Russian military administration decided to disconnect nuclear power station that's in Ukrainian nuclear power station that's here in Enerhodar from Ukrainian power grid, and it's not going to be supplying electricity to Ukrainian power grid. The importance of this is that this nuclear power station is the largest in Ukraine and produces about 20% of all electricity generated in Ukraine. So that's going to be a huge blow, another blow to Ukrainian economy. And as we discussed at this point, that the whole economy is in totally free fall. Not to mention that the fuel shortages are persisting, probably to extent like horrible, and there is no end in sight for the fuel shortages. So the Ukrainian economy is totally crippled, and it looks like a Titanic, and it's going to be very, very difficult situation in a month or two for Ukraine. Okay, let's now switch and let's go through the front line. We're actually gonna, as always, we're gonna do it in a clockwise fashion, except we're gonna start a little bit more towards north. We're gonna cover what's happening here in Sumy region and portion of the Kharkiv region, and which is for the Russian side, it's Bryansk region, Kursk region, and Belgorod region. So what's happening here is that both sides are shelling each other. Right, so there is no incursion, at least to our knowledge, into Ukrainian or into Russian territory, and it's just shelling. Mostly, it's hard to really understand who is doing what, and all we can say just there is a fact that there is shelling, and the rest is unclear who is doing and who is responsible for it. In our opinion, it's very clear that Russian side wants to have sort of casus belli for the war, and that's what they already sort of the case. They have enough of the case for that, but they kind of continue, kind of reminding, okay, there is another shelling. So that's what's really happening here. So there is no new sort of invasion of the Russian forces from the northeast into Ukraine, because there were questions in the comments. So situation definitely kind of got worse because it was quiet before. At least there was no shelling. Now it's getting sort of more intense here. We don't think that Russian side has enough troops to repeat what they did at the beginning of the war. But, you never know. So let's now look at the situation around Kharkiv. So as you can see here, the Ukrainian army is continuing slow, very gentle push of the Russian side from the Ukrainian territory here, this buffer zone that the Russian side has. So Ukrainian side reported that they captured a small village, Dementiyivka here. We don't kind of even see it, and it's really very, it's even almost impossible to show it here. So you can see it's a very tiny gain. And then there were reports that Russian side tried to attack Ternova here. So apparently, probably from the Russian territory, but Ukrainian defense is still standing there. As we mentioned before, this is basically here in this buffer, just third-rated screening troops. The only reason why the Ukrainian army cannot sort of totally push this out. Apparently, Russian side decided to keep this buffer, and then they support this third-rated troops with artillery shelling. So whenever Ukrainian side tries to really attack, there is heavy artillery shelling, and so the attacks kind of die off in a way. So it does look that for whatever reason, Russian side decided to keep this buffer. Not very clear to us why they believe that this is important to keep this buffer here. Maybe just because it's kind of close, keep it close to Kharkiv, but there is no really good explanation for that in our opinion. let's now go south. We're gonna look at Izyum bridgehead and then Lyman bridgehead. And just a quick reminder: this Izyum bridgehead is the importance of the Izyum bridgehead. That this is Russian attempt to encircle Ukrainian troops in Donbass salient. So now let's actually look what's going on there. So this is very high level schematic view of the situation. There's no changes on the Izyum bridgehead itself. As we mentioned before yesterday, Ukrainian Lyman bridgehead was essentially cut into two pieces. The larger one centered around town Lyman, and the smaller one centered around town Svyatohirsk. And let's actually look at the situation here. So again, there's nothing new here in Izyum. Everything kind of stays the same. So not even the reporting of any active attacks. It's mostly just shelling at this point here. So here, its situation here on this Svyatohirsk bridgehead is sort of more or less favorable for Ukrainian side, because they keep the routes for retreat here, as you can see, right? So, and we said it from the very beginning. So this Lyman bridgehead will be lost by Ukrainian army. Eventually, it's just delaying tactic, right? They're trying to slowly kind of give up the ground to Russian side, and so that was the whole purpose here. So, so at least here, it's clear that Russian side will not be able to encircle these troops. The biggest concern is actually here, and this large one centered around Lyman. As you can see, that they kind of trying to squeeze it at the sort of at the root here and try to create encirclement. So they actively pushing towards Stary Caravan. They attacking towards this village, and basically not even this village. They really want to cut off this road, which is the main retreat route for Ukrainian troops from Lyman. So as you can see, that's kind of that's really the main road, the only road that we are aware of for the retreat, right? So hopefully Ukrainian side will retreat in time and prevents another encirclement similar to Mariupol. But right now, situation here could, let's say, dangerous for Ukrainian side. Let's continue. Let's now look at the situation at the tip of Donbass salient. We call it Severodonetsk salient. This is the area of the most effort from the Russian side at this point. As we mentioned many times, Russian troops don't have enough resources to attack everywhere, so they decided to kind of choose smaller piece, as opposed to trying to chew this whole Donbass salient that they cannot sort of chew and swallow. They decided to chew this smaller piece and make smaller encirclement here. So let's look what's going on. So the situation up north in this northern flank is totally stable right now. There's no new attempts by Russian side to create bridgeheads here. So they continue sort of slight push towards to squeeze Ukrainian troops from Severodonetsk. However, they're not totally crazy about attacking, because this leads to heavy losses in infantry. So they kind of trying to create pressure for Ukrainian side, but without without sort of suffering high losses on the Russian side. So basically, kind of a little bit more intelligent sort of practice. Let's now look what's going on here around Popasna, because this is the most concerning area. This is the most dangerous for Ukrainian side. And it does look a little bit like Ukrainian defenses here are crumbling. So as we mentioned before, the way it started is that Russian side captured Popasna, then they attacked north, then they attacked west. Now they attacked, call it northwest. They captured a village called Druzhba. And so they now kind of on the border between Donetsk and Luhansk region, and the same kind of situation here. That's where they were stopped. And then we don't see it here. We'll show it on the next map. They also attacked from Novozvanivka towards south, towards village Troitsky. So we'll see it once we show. They continued heavy attacks on Kamyshevaha today, but they didn't have success. By the way, those Terminator vehicles that we discussed yesterday, they are being applied actually here to attack Mashivacha. So we'll find out probably fairly soon about their effectiveness, and just generally any sort of feedback. We'll try to provide that information as soon as it becomes available. So let's actually look a little bit towards south. So this is kind of like map that's focused on this breakthrough in Popasna. So as you can see, this is what we sort of were not able to show on the previous map, that Russian troops, they are attacking south to kind of squeeze out Ukrainian side from Troitsky, because the front line was kind of going like this. So the idea is, okay, attacking from the sort of regular front line, which is heavily defended, entrenched, and everything is leading to high casualties. So they decided to attack from the flank, where we don't know obviously exactly, but it's probably not as entrenched, and it's sort of more dangerous, and potentially, so just psychologically probably creates tension for Ukrainian defenders here. So that's the only area where the Russian troops having success and creating sort of credible and real threat for Ukrainian army on the entire stretch of the front line in Ukraine. Because as we mentioned, they tried to cut off the ski road that supplies Ukraine, that starts from Bakhmut, and it ends in, well, it doesn't end, but it goes to Severodonetsk, and it's basically a logistical artery for Ukrainian troops here. So now let's look what's going on here west of Donetsk. There are no new attacks. So Russian side had success here around Novobakhmutivka, which they captured it, and they attacked New York, but no success there. And right now, situation here kind of like stalled, and there's no new attacks. There is shelling, obviously. The only place where they continued attacks was village Mariupol and Novomikhailivka here on this stretch of front line. Those were, but this is places where basically attacks never end in a way. You can sort of every day there is attack there. So this is kind of closer look at this Novobakhmutivka. So this is Russian gains here. As you can see, they kind of create sort of in a way salient here, and we're sure that they will continue, attacks on New York, and just generally they just want to create a breakthrough through Ukrainian front line. That's the general idea here. So now let's look at the front line in Zaporizhzhia front line. So there is nothing new here. So the Russian side created this wedge. Now it's stable. Ukrainian side tried to sort of attack 2 times from 2 different locations we mentioned in the past, towards village of Neskuchne, and then here towards Novozlatopil, and both attempts were not successful and obviously failed. So that's but at the same time, situation here is for sure stable for Ukrainian side, and in our opinion, Russian troops will not be able to create the southern pincer out of this area to encircle Donbass, Ukrainian troops in the Donbass salient. This is bigger picture, bigger view of the Zaporizhzhia front line. This is where we look. This eastern section of it. This is where the Russian side created this wedge in the Ukrainian front line, but for now it's stable. Then there is a constant shelling of Rykhiv, Gulyai-Pole, as those are one of the most important strongholds that blocking Russian advance sort of north and to capture Zaporizhzhia. So as a side note about Mariupol, because we're sure that a lot of people are interested in that. So as of morning of the 18th, about 964 Ukrainian soldiers surrendered in Mariupol. So as we mentioned, there are 2,500, so there is 1,500 that are remaining there. So that's the situation there. Now let's look at the final sort of section of the front, and this is Kherson bridgehead. As we mentioned, situation here is a stalemate. Stalemate. The Russian side is on strategic defense. Ukrainian side does not have enough resources to attack, or we would say it does not have enough resources, given that 60th brigade is not the top quality. 108th is Ukrainian militia, so which really means it's light infantry. Doesn't have much, or they don't really have artillery by their sort of table of order. I think that's the English word. So really, you have only 59th and 28th brigade, and then 28th brigade is not even the whole, because they are actually tasked with the defense of Odessa, where chances of the Russians sea landing are close to zero at this point. Nevertheless, you can never commit the whole brigade here, because you always need to be aware that there is a potential opportunity for attack. And then 80th brigade is here. However, they are not at full strength. Maybe at this point they were refitted, but we're not aware of that situation. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.